Well, welcome back to another edition. I have Celia Clark with me, who is a specialist. And how do you frame it?
I referred myself as a food and body image specialist.
Food and body image specialist. I just love that. Um, I'll have to see how that could be put into finance. um, so last time you had given a list of some of the what do we want to call it, progressions, or how you um, what's happening with somebody with
Yeah, the kind of key drivers for the controlled or chaotic eating that I often experience. Yeah, yeah,
and
key
the
drivers.
first one was not feeling safe in the body. Was I right about that? Just being disconnected from the body, learning how to pay attention to what's happening in the body, like being disconnected from the neck down.
Yeah, so the first step, and when a client first comes to see me, yeah, the first step is really about that safety piece.
So I'm thinking about that with money, um, and not feeling safe with money. And I think that can be really true. Um, in many ways, the first thing that comes up is somebody that has a certain amount of debt. And it's actually when they pay off the debt, they go into this really unfamiliar state, um, which I've never termed it in not feeling safe, but there can be a safety, like I know how to live with debt. I know how to live with that stress. Um, so that's what's coming up to me around not feeling safe. People would say, "Well, I don't feel safe with money, um, and I don't feel safe without money."
Yeah, yeah. And I
Um,
would say that's similar for some of my clients. They don't feel safe with food and they don't feel safe without it.
yeah, so I've never really thought of. I mean, overtly, we know if we don't have money and we can't pay for things, there's not safety. There's not safety if we don't have good shelter. There's not safety if we don't have clothing and adequate food. Uh, we don't have good transportation. Um, so,
But there's also a safety piece in, we're designed to move towards what's familiar.
yes,
So if there's a
yes,
change in our circumstances, even if that's change that at least some part of us wants, if it feels unfamiliar, there's going to be uncertainty or anxiety around that.
yes. I love that reframe, because there can be safety. There can be safety in no safety.
Yes, that can feel safer than
Yes,
making a change towards safety. Yes,
yes,
absolutely. Yes.
yeah. That makes perfect sense in when I tie it out to money.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yes, I've had clients that I'm thinking of that just can get terrified uh, of moving toward uh, what is life going to look like without all these parts that protect me financially, or if parts of myself no longer um, are activated by feeling insufficient, feeling less than, uh, just being terrified what that means with money. What does that mean if I have a good relationship with money? I mean, it doesn't even regulate. They can't even
Mm,
visualize it.
yeah. It's also that concern of like, who am I without this, or who am I now with this? There's a
Yes.
change in identity there that can take a while for parts to make sense of and to feel safe enough with. Yeah,
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. Because I know for, for my clients who have bonded with food, it's a real transition to move away from that. There's a grieving process almost. Um, it's like the ending of a relationship. um, it's really, really significant to give something up that may have been supporting them for decades.
Yes.
And same with the hunger piece too. For the clients who've bonded with hunger, giving that up it's a big ask.
Yeah, that's interesting because the equivalent of bonding with hunger in money would be the money vigilant category of money scripts, which typically is spending is not okay, debt is not okay, um, lots of anxiety, and typically very much like the Christmas Carol, Scrooge in the Christmas Carol, who by all appearances had all the money that he needed, but was incredibly anorexic in his spending. He ate the poorest of the poor. He didn't
Mhm.
heat his house. He
Yeah.
lived darkness.
Yeah, it's
Um,
that lack of pleasure piece.
mhm.
Yeah, going without. Yeah.
And so I can see that in having that bond with that lack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That sounds very familiar
yeah.
with the eating.
Because there's something around, if we start to even consider acknowledging need, there's something very vulnerable about that. And there can be huge shame for individuals around having any kind of need, especially if, as in early experiences, they were maybe shamed for having needs, humiliated for having needs, punished for having needs. So there can be huge protection in the system against even acknowledging need. So there is this move towards the deprivation piece and to stay with that because that's what's familiar and that's what will help protect them from, potential shame, judgment, humiliation. Yeah. Even though it
I'm
comes with consequences. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm having an internal short circuiting going on. Like,
Okay.
oh my God, I've never thought about that in that way. Um, I'd like to move into that second piece you were talking about last time, as far as I think I put down about six things
Yes.
you came out with. The first one being seeking connection,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's at the root of almost all um, financial problematic financial behaviors is seeking connection. Now, I'm thinking of seeking connection with others, like in the status. Why all the status, um, and wanting to have a connection with others that can certainly come out of a lack of connection with self, or feeling that I am so inadequate that I need these other things to be accepted by people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, am I
I
on the
wonder also, I wonder also, Rick, if there's a piece around, the actual moment of the spending. There's something about connecting to the money. The money is providing something. The money is meeting a need in the moment that, you hand the physical cash over at the counter or you press the purchase now button on your screen on your phone. There's something around what need is being met in that moment. And that would, parallel with that feeding experience of the food coming into the mouth, of the texture, of the taste, of the fullness, of the, that kind of experience of the connection in that way.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, as the credit card's coming out, as the money is going out, um, there could be parts just screaming, um, no, we can't afford this. No, don't do it. And other parts are like, we are going to do this. And that satisfaction, that the money is connecting with that, I want to say the unmet need
For
within.
sure. Yeah.
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 And this is going to fill me up. This is going to meet that need.
Mm-hmm.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge relationship with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and asking, in doing mindfulness work, um, trying to instill a little bit of the idea of checking in before the credit card's coming out, or maybe while you're in line, just like, what is being met here?
Mm-hmm.
Is there
Or
a
are,
vulnerable
or
part in distress?
yeah, I guess my question would be more about what is not being met. Because there's an urge to spend in the moment, or there's an urge to eat
Right.
in the moment. So what is not being met
Yes.
that's triggering this urge? Because
Yeah.
actually that's what we need to focus on.
Yep. What
Yeah.
what is this spending about to do to meet the unmet need
Yeah. Yeah.
within me?
Yeah.
Um, the second one you listed was, I wrote down seeking disconnection.
Yeah. Like that kind of numbing piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, totally relevant to finance in just numbing out. Um,
Yeah, that kind of dissociative spending.
I'm thinking about numbing out. I can make the connection with numbing out with the avoidant, the money avoidant person. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm not going to think about it. But I never thought about a numbing out with a money vigilant person in numbing out to their to their desires or needs, like um, taking a vacation or um, making their house safe. I once had a client that would not spend anything on replacing missing planks in a deck, in wiring that had become exposed. I mean, real safety dangers. But just numbing out to the fact this is a need that some parts have, and other parts just like, no, no, no,
Mm.
we're going to take you out of that
Yeah.
need.
I mean, I guess for me, Rick, I was thinking in terms of the numbing out around the spending, the money piece. Um, People going into that kind of trance of spending, where they don't even
Mm-hmm.
remember that they've bought something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a way to kind of take themselves out from what else might be going on in their life.
Yep.
This kind of distraction piece,
Yep.
you know, and if there's a kind of habitual nature to that behavior, they can sort of, they go into the shopping app on their phone and they get lost in there for like an hour, and it takes them away from the stress that's going on in their life. Um,
And that would be the same with the money status.
mhm.
That would be the overeating.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really applicable to both under and
Yeah.
over, whether it's
Yeah.
spending or um,
Yeah.
then the reward. This is a reward. Boy, I think
Because
that's with money. Totally.
yeah, and I would say there's a kind of unmet need there around being underappreciated, not feeling valued, especially for those folks who are maybe people pleasers. who are frequently sacrificing their own needs for those of others. And so they do have an unmet need piece here, and that food or money could be used as that reward. Well, I deserve this, you know?
Yeah, I'm just I I totally see the connection, and this can fit a little bit with the rebellion piece, which is the next one. This is a reward. I deserve this. I have worked hard, and um, and then maybe a little bit of the numbing out piece that would come into, yeah, but the reward can't be your whole paycheck. uh, like somewhat of a disconnect between the size of the reward and for the accomplishment, um, and not feeling valued, a reward for not feeling valued. Um, I'm struggling with that one a little bit around the money.
Mm,
Do you see a
yeah.
connection there?
Well, there's something around, if our relationships are not meeting our need, if we're not seen, if we're not heard, if we're not valued, we then find other ways of feeling valued
Totally,
in the moment. So I don't know, I'm going to buy
totally,
myself a nice dress, or I'm going to,
totally.
buy this holiday I can't afford, or,
Yep. No,
um,
that totally fits. Um,
mhm.
I once had a client that lost her husband, and a year later in my office, I had given some type of an assessment, and her response was something like, OMG, I have been um, replacing the the connection, the relationship with my husband in buying. In my closet, I counted them, I have 83 things I've bought, and I've only worn one of them.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so that brings us to the rebellion, the wanting to feel powerful
Mm.
in the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
And I can see that with money.
Mhm.
Um, I see it showing up oftentimes. I've been on this budget all month. I've done really good. And it, kind of going back to the reward, and also just the idea of this thing is feeling so constrained, constraining. I'm not going to live this way.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a kind of it's about power, but it's also that autonomy piece of I'm in control or I'm in charge and I get to decide.
Okay.
Um, it's that kind of energy in the moment. I'm making this choice.
Yeah.
I'll show you,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
or I'll show them.
Yep. All of
Yeah.
these professionals telling me to do it this way and do it that way. And
Hmm. Yeah. Or it can even come as a result of, so sometimes the rebellion piece can come after conflict. Perhaps you've just had a fight with your partner, you're feeling unseen or you're feeling wronged, that sense of using the food to kind of I'll show you. Um,
yes.
yeah, and the same with the money piece too.
Yep. Totally.
I'll show you I have power, I have control, I'm in charge. That
Then we have the punishment piece, which you tie to trauma, chronic shame.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, I never thought of it in terms as punishment. We certainly, I think, underlying almost all problematic money behaviors is trauma.
Mhm.
Um, and certainly we have critics that um, continue that shaming around money internally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't know how to do money. Um, this is just how it's going to be. You can't change. Um, so tie in that punishment piece a little bit more for me.
Yeah, so the punishment piece tends to be driven by more impulsive, compulsive parts who take over in the moment. And it tends to show up in my clients who've had, fairly traumatic early histories. And there tends to be a deep sense of chronic shame. So, really held by many of the parts in the system. I'm not worthy, I'm not important, I don't matter, these kinds of things. And the pain of living with that chronic shame is so enduring that these impulsive or compulsive parts can step in to create a more immediate sense of shame, because that more immediate sense of shame is a slightly different energy than that kind of deeper sense of chronic shame. So it does provide some relief. Um, so, for example, you know, take someone who's overeaten beyond the point of fullness and is in actually a lot of pain from eating what they've just eaten. And it's about causing harm. There's some level of harm there. Um, but that more immediate sense of shame that comes with the pain is quite a different energy from that more enduring, deeper, long-term sense of shame. And so although it's still unpleasant, uncomfortable, it has a different energy. It shifts their state. It shifts their emotional state just enough for it to bring some kind of relief. Um, it's a bit like what shows up in sort of, other forms of self-harming, like cutting, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of money, I was thinking about that. It might be in situations where people are already in debt. They're maybe at risk of losing their house, or, really kind of serious consequences, and yet they're out there spending more money that they don't have. So it's
Mm-hmm.
that in the moment decision, um, that shifts that kind of state. So yeah, I don't know how that's landing for you, Rick,
Yeah.
as I
It,
explore that.
what the example you just gave is pretty normal where, and see if I'm getting this. You're over in debt, you're struggling to make payments. Maybe you're not even making payments on the mortgage. This is kind of been a long-term issue, a really overriding issue. Um, um, and the person goes out and spends $3,000 buying a pet,
Yeah,
or
something that they don't even need necessarily. Yeah.
something that eats and consumes money. I'm not sure what it would be in Scotland. You have sheepdogs, right?
Yeah, we do.
Um, and from an outsider standpoint of view, it's OMG. Um, it's the adage would be digging the hole deeper,
Mm, yeah.
and it would appear to be so illogical, and yet we know that every behavior makes perfect sense when we understand the underlying drivers, the underlying beliefs,
Yeah,
thoughts,
sure.
right? Same with my
Yeah.
with eating.
Yeah.
So um, that that makes sense that in that moment, obviously, say with your example of cutting, there's pain in the moment, but there is this relief
Yeah.
in the
Because
moment.
you can focus on the pain rather than the shame in the moment. There's
Oh, I
something
like
around that.
that. I like that. Focusing on the pain rather than the shame.
Yeah, it's more immediate.
It's a real distraction, isn't it? From the real underlying shame.
Yeah.
Hmm. Cool. And then there's the protection piece.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, remind me of that.
Yeah, so the protection piece is often around body size. So some clients feel safer in a smaller body, and some clients feel
Got it.
safer in a larger body.
Got it.
And that can be for a myriad of reasons. But this idea of, if there's safety in the smaller body, then the idea of gaining weight can feel quite threatening. And also, if you're living in a larger body, the idea of losing weight can feel quite threatening.
Yes.
So it may be, that there's a diet, there's some weight lost, and then the weight comes back on because actually it's too terrifying to, be living in the smaller body. There's an increase in attention, for example. People are noticing, people are commenting on your body. It can be really threatening for parts in the system if they're not used to that. So, yeah.
And a total um, parallel to overspending, and how it's really threatening to start reducing that spending. Um, Very scary. The parts going into, well, if I constrain spending for a year to help get me out of this place, parts thinking, no, this is forever.
Yeah.
Um, and just how unfamiliar it is to change some of those behaviors on the overspending side. On the underspending side, the same thing, which a lot of people struggle with. Like, well, how can underspending be a problem? I mean, that was my view when I first started this work. Like, get a grip. What do you mean underspending? Money vigilant probably doesn't even think there's such a thing as underspending. And to start spending more?
Yeah.
Wow. And my money scripts would fall in the class of money vigilant. And in working with myself, like the disconnect between the bank balance and the mindset. Well, do we have the money to do that? Is it going to hurt us in the long term? Is this going to really upset the financial plan? If you buy the latte, well, I can make it for 1/5 the cost at home. And then actually, or paying full retail would be another one. There's money scripts that you never pay retail. Another one is never buy a new car. Always buy a used car.
Yeah.
Even when buying the new car is not going to impact the long-term financial stability at all. So I think there's a real connection with that.
Yeah. And it comes back to that deprivation piece again, moving towards what's familiar.
Yes, totally. Okay. I could talk on and on, Celia, but if I'm counting my numbers right, I think we've come to the end of our time. Tell folks again how they can reach you and take advantage of the things that you offer.
Yeah, so everything is on my website, which they can find at www.celiaclark.online.
Thank you so much, Celia. And there's more things I'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah, me too, Rick.
Maybe we can continue the discussion. We'll see. Come back next week and you'll find out. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rick. It's been a pleasure.